Hello and welcome back to another week of Sambo iRacing. We are back in the fixed Toyota GR86 this time at Summit Point. So we're redoing these this season because obviously the car now has a few more horsepower and it handles slightly different. Any questions, let me know in the comments, and as always we're going to do a hot lap, then a breakdown lap, then we will be back in the cockpit one final time with the driving line on. And I really don't normally ask for it, but if you do find this video useful, please give it a like. Drop a comment, say hello, let the algorithm find me. Right, let's start the hot lap. So we are smashing it down the main straight at one of my very favourite tracks to race. And we're going to roll onto the brakes just after the 4 cone, just before the 3. And we're going to hit a maximum of about 80%. We're going to trail that off down to second, back on the gas right at the apex. Always important to get on the gas as soon as possible here. And now we're just up through the gears. We're going to head over to the right-hand side of the track, just grazing that grass. And as we get to the middle of that piece of grass, lightly on the brakes, back on the gas in 4th. Don't end up in the kitty litter over on the right-hand side. We're going to head over to the left-hand side so we can cut back in absolutely flat, changing up to 5th. And now, just before we get to that tree, we're on the brakes. I trail it off all the way down to 1st, back on the gas. Now, at the edge of the little cut-in the tyres there, that's when we get on the brakes. I'll show you all in the breakdown lap. We're driving faster than my mouth can think. And now we're absolutely flat as we go through turn 9, using the camber. Now we have one final corner not to mess up. And just as we get to the end of the pit entrance, we get on the brakes, drop it down to 4th, back on the gas nice and early. Don't end up in the gravel on the left-hand side. And over and across we go in a 1:18.3. And we have the breakdown lap coming up next. Right. Let's show you some of these things. So yeah, I used to brake just straight up to maximum in this car, but Gianni Lutzu told me that it's now braking a lot more like the GT3, so we slightly roll on, and our first braking mark is going to be midway between the 4 and the 3. So you can see I'm only just past the 4, the 3 still in front of me, and I'm starting to roll onto the brakes. There's always a bit of overlap with me because that's the way I drive. And so initially we sort of increase and increase. I reach a peak of 82% here at the entrance to whatever this road is on the left-hand side. And now I'm going to drop it down to 2nd. I trail it off and I start picking up right on the apex. And we're going to try and get straight up to 100%. And it is going to force us wide a little bit, but you're going to pay back in dividends by getting on the gas nice and early because you're going to carry extra speed down this straight. Right, in terms of our braking marker for turn 3, it's going to be halfway along this little grassy patch on the right-hand side. So as you can see, we reach a maximum of like 18%. We trail it off, and then we get back up to 100% right at the apex. I've got my left-hand tyres up on the grass, basically. And that just gives us the angle to not end up in the gravel on the right-hand side here. You can see this is towards the end of a stint. I have used 21 litres of fuel. And now we're turning back in. And we're absolutely flat out. We don't want to hit that curb on the right-hand side because it's going to send us too far over to the left. Now, as soon as I straighten my wheel, well, I'm still not fully straight, apparently. We get on the brakes and I reach a peak of sort of 90% here, but it's fairly early on in the braking zone, so I'm not actually in the ABS. I trail it off down to 1st, and then I get back up to 100% as soon as I can get on the gas. I'm just kissing that inside curb. And then my braking marker here, if you look at the tyre wall on the left-hand side, it goes from being 1 deep up to 2 deep, and there's a little Marshall's like 3 run in between. Once that disappears, that is when I get on the brakes. And again, only up to about 30-35%. Trail that off, and then I pick back up on the gas, and I reach 100%. Again, it looks here like I'm actually on that curb, but if you go back and watch the hot lap from the chase cam, I'm right up against it without actually hitting it because it will slow you down. Now, this one, we can actually jump a little bit, and that's why the car's actually moving up there. But I don't particularly want to hit this one, but again, I'm right up against it. And now we're going to turn in early to get the weight moving in the right direction. And now we are just kissing this curb, and we are using the full camber available to us. And then for turn 10, the final corner, this is where, so we're basically in the middle of that pit entranceway. So you can see this is where I first start getting on the gas. This is where I get, on the brakes. This is where I get off the gas and I'm up to my maximum of sort of 36. Now I'm going to trail that off down to 4th gear, and at the apex, I'm at nearly 90%, and then I get up to 100%. I'd set myself quite wide a few times there in my previous laps. That's the joy of track guides and active reset. Right, one final version coming up next with the driving line on and without me talking.